So this meditation is this particular one comes from lesson 134 in the Course in Miracles workbook. It also is repeated again in lesson 147. We're right now our interview. Actually, today is day 150. So, but I was thinking about it and how it relates to this topic of shared responsibility or shared response. That it's everything is a relationship. Everything. And this, well, Jack Kornfield has these principles of Buddhist psychology, and the fifth one says that our ideas of self are created by identification. And the less we cling to ideas of self, small self, the freer and the happier we will be. So the ideas of separate self, the ideas that what we're telling ourselves is really it's not relationship, that really it's all about us. I mean, all about us individually, right? And how everything impacts us individually. And even when in that state of mind, even when we want to be nice to someone or be of service, it's still about our own motivations. And so when it doesn't turn out the way that we wanted it to, when they don't appreciate it, when then later on they act as if we never did anything good for them, then it comes back to suffering for us. And so the meditation was about this forgiveness being a method to stop seeing the entire list of things that we've been holding against others and ourselves. I mean, we're in there. Most of the time, when we start to cast about and judge others, it's because we have found ourselves wanting, we have judged ourselves badly, we don't want to stay on that subject, so we push it out into the world. So this continual back and forth is all about this establishment of the individual self and noticing how everything is impacting that self. But what's really happening is we're part of this larger organism. To think about it in the Buddhist way, we're part of. Think about it in a progressive Christian way. We would think about it as being members of the body of Christ, and that being the unity of all life. That God's self being the unity of all life, and that we are part of that. Now this is where, and you can find many references to it, but God is that in which we live and move and have our being. So then the more we put our attention on that state, on the fact that we're all in this larger thing, then what happens is the freer and the happier we will be. Now, sometimes it gets confusing because we think that the more we consider the common welfare, we think that the more we try to operate within just say a group, that means that we're somehow getting shortchanged. That I put too much attention here, and I'm going to end up not getting what I need. But the fact of the matter is, when we go forth, considering the common welfare and what's the good for everyone involved, we've automatically assured that we're going to get what's best for us, because the conundrum, the thing that confuses us all the time is every time we think about doing what's best for everyone involved, we forget that we're part of everyone involved. We think that means we don't get it. So it's very important when we consider these ideas that it's not about sacrifice. I know we've been taught to consider the nobility of sacrifice, and we see it many times. We see it idealized many times, and we're kind of brought up to be proud of the sacrifices that we make. Maybe make sacrifices for our family. We make, but actually, that's really not that the act itself wasn't a good act, but the idea that it was sacrifice automatically makes it something like martyrdom. And we don't think about it. We don't actually think about it that way. But so what the actual common welfare is saying is that the best for everyone involved means that we do not sacrifice any. Here's actually the ultimate thing that happens when we're talking about sacrifice is we'll make decisions as a society to sacrifice someone else for what we call the common good. We're going to sacrifice 5 people for the benefit of 5,000 people. This is not spiritual principle. This is just simple expediency. And also the thing about this is that it's so easy to manipulate. Once you get people in this mindset that they need to sacrifice, and of course, when we're talking about common welfare, it's very important to understand we're not talking about hive mind. We're not talking about the ant hill. This is not what we're meaning. What we're talking about common welfare means that every person is precious to the group, and that the group is precious to every person. Both things have to be in alignment. So now, there are times when events occur that we may act in such a way that injury might actually come to us, or physical injury could come to us, even death, because we acted in a way. But any time that we would do such a thing, the mindset should be, I am making a free investment, if you will, in the common welfare. I'm going to, and it's important I make this, in the Baha'i faith, Baha'u'llah, who was their prophet, he said, there are a number of things I would die for, but there's nothing I would kill for. So, and he didn't just mean he was going to just go throw his life away. He was meaning that in working towards these things, or in perhaps protecting these people, I am willing to go as far as it needs to be, except I would not kill, no matter what. Now, this is a totally different mindset than one we've been brought up with. We think about this idea when the topic for today is a shared responsibility, is that we together are responsible for the whole. Together we are responsible for the whole thing. And so that means that when the group that we're involved in is doing things that are contrary to principle, when the group that we're involved in are doing things that are actually harmful not only to others but to the members of the group, then we have responsibility to say something, to speak up, to do something. But here's what we don't have. We don't have responsibility to cause injury in standing up and saying this isn't okay. So any kind of, if we're really want to be on the spiritual path, any kind of violent reaction to some injustice is never going to be really sound. There's going to be other even in the moment, if it seems like everything turned out the best, there's going to be consequences. It's not going to be good. So the group that we're involved in, we are involved. So it's all relationship, and every relationship is a symbol for the larger relationship, right? So we have relationships with our friends. We have relationships with lovers. We have relationship with spouses. We have relationship with family, uh, at work, in whatever groups that we may associate with. But all of those relationships are really just small representations for the larger relationship with life itself. And all of those relationships need to complement. I mean, in order for us to be what it says here, free and happy, all those relationships need to complement the larger relationship. So my relationship with my friend should not cause harm to my relationship with my family. So this opens up some very interesting topics because we have relationships. Many of us have relationships that are secret. Maybe nobody sitting here, but we have relationships that are secret, and then we um, we may have to take a good look at them to see if they may be causing harm to other relationships. And I'm actually a person who thinks that it doesn't have to be that way, but it's the secret part that's the problem. That really is the deal. So okay, so we need to be looking at our relationships, and then we need to be looking at the welfare of the relationship and saying, yes, we're both contributing because we both are receiving the benefit of the relationship. And so when we look at, as we go forward, we see, okay, now I'm in a relationship with my friends, I'm in a relationship in the community. I look at my community and see, where's my community helping, first of all the members in the community, helping or hurting, and I need to be an advocate for the help, and I need to be someone who exposes the hurt. So we speak. Here's where some people would call it speaking truth to power. Said that one of the problems is we have evolved to be psychologically dependent on being accepted into our group. We have evolved to be psychologically dependent upon acceptance into our group because that's what meant survival way back when. If you weren't accepted by your group, you're put out. You're put out. Now, how are you going to survive and so what I'm saying is it's built in, it's hardwired into us to want acceptance. But as we grow in a spiritual way, we have to open our minds and say, no, you know what? I have to speak up, even though people might get upset with me. It's my responsibility. And then point out to them, I am not speaking up as an outsider. I'm not speaking up as I'm trying to just point out wrong. I'm speaking up as someone who shares responsibility for the group and pointing out that they do too, that we have this shared responsibility. And so then we look at again, larger and larger. And if we look at our relationship to the unity of all life itself, we see so many areas where members are harmed. Other members, we could call it members of the larger organism, or as I said before, we call it members of the body of Christ. We could call it members of God. We're members of you, and this would mean all living things. So now it starts to get very, very complicated. And so how in the world do we figure it out? I mean, there's so many. We may have opinions about this. I think the other day, this is important. So the opinion thing is like releasing opinion relieves us of the need to be right and the burden to prove it. So when we point these things out to people, that we have to remember, first of all, it is opinion. Even if it came to us in meditation and we think God herself said the words, we are still interpreting. And so when we go to our group that we're in relationship with, we need to be humble enough to say, this is, from my perspective, this is what it looks like. And we have to actually be willing to be wrong. So this is how, because when we get it stuck in our head that we are absolutely right and someone else is absolutely wrong, we are doing the opposite of what the meditation was. We are setting up conflict not just between the two of us, but those ripples of conflict move out into the relationship. But even more importantly, the conflict is in me, is in us. We cannot be at peace. We cannot be happy. So this need to be right and the burden to prove it, there's probably countless deaths that have resulted from that dynamic. So, because it seems like it's precious. It seems like somehow our rightness is precious. And that was a little short one that I sent out yesterday. Precious little of that held so actually is. So all of these things that we have in our mind, all these priorities and all these things that we think are just that we need and we have to hold on to, and it could be material things, could be, it could be status, it could be it could be being right. We hold them like they really have value. They have no value. They have no real value in spirit. And this is a biblical quote. It says, "Where your heart is, there is your treasure also." So if our heart is into a bunch of stuff, that's our treasure. That's what's precious, and it's almost all of it is temporary. It's certainly temporary for the body. What did they say? The guy was so rich. He was so rich. He had so much, and he died. And his two friends were talking, and they said, "How much did he leave?" And they said, "All of it." Temporary. All these things we hold precious are temporary. Think how temporary an opinion is. Wait, listen, you got to go watch the news later, maybe. Let's have be Sunday could be the day where we just don't watch it at all. Don't even listen to it at all. But if you did, you get this opinion about the thing that just happened, right? And then perhaps if you kept watching, someone else would come on and have a different view. And they will say what they think, and you go, "Oh, maybe," right? Maybe, "Oh, I never even thought about it that way." And so you change, and now that opinion is gone that you had a minute ago that you were so sure was correct. And now it's different. Or maybe when the other person says it, it even makes you dig in deeper into your opinion, which still changes it because now it's even more firm and hard rock and set. So it's all these things that are happening, and this is the real point for the condition of what we call ourselves. That thing that we are calling ourselves is just a set of experiences. They're a set of experiences and memories that are continually changing. So this is why all of the philosophers are telling us yourself that you're holding on to isn't even real. It's changing moment to moment. You think it's some concrete thing. And not only that, even though you know that every single body dies, you think that doesn't apply to you. You're afraid that it does, and you're afraid that it could happen anytime, but you believe and act as if it's just temporary. It's just temporary. It's all temporary. It's not permanent. We act as if it's permanent. So we act as if the slights, the little irritations, the minor things that people do, we act like that's some kind of permanent, indelible stain upon their soul. I remember back 10 years ago that he said that you haven't seen this person for 10 years. They walk in the room and you remember, oh, that's that son of a bitch. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. So, listen, and as part of the group, this is the other thing that's important, that as a group, and as a larger group, everyone has a role. And I'm going to tell a story, and I hope that this is not, I hope, I'll try to tell the story in a way that it won't be obvious. But anyway, so I'm at a gathering of a particular group that I'm a part of, and I see this person, and I'm going to just tell you, there's only two people that I really need a lot of forgiveness work with. Almost everybody else, and I'm pretty good at like letting it go, but there's two people that I really need some work with. And one of those people was actually there, and this problem has been going on for many, many years. Now I want to just tell you, the problems are going on mostly in my mind, all right? So I see this person, and I just and what do I observe? And this is all about this meditation. This is so important. I observe their conversation with somebody else, and my mind goes, after all these years, he's still doing the same things. And it was all like I had opinion immediately reinforced from the past. I'm listening to the conversation. I said, he has not changed in all of this time. He's doing the same thing. And I turned, and I'll say this, I turned to Earl, who was standing over here, and I just looked at him. And Earl looked at me, and he said, I know, he's a creep. I said, yes, Earl. Yeah. And he said, but we need him. Because it takes a creep to reach a creep. I hate him. So we're all needed. Now listen, this is not to say that if you find that in your inventory, if you find that you are doing things that are less than admirable and you know it, change, right? But the point that he was trying to make is, no matter what stage of development, no matter what character defects that we're involved with, there's somebody here we can help. And I'm talking about in whatever group we're in. There's somebody there that we can help, even if we don't know it. And to see every member of every group that we're involved in, to see every member as precious and valuable because somebody needs them. Okay, let's see what that is. Okay. All right, I don't want to try not to go over like I did the last time. Okay. I want to do one of these. Because this is, okay, so in this, oh, that was last week's. I don't even have this week's. I don't even have it. Hold on, I'm coming back in a second. Because I know there was one of them in here that I wanted to. All right, so whatever organization we're in, many times we'll be given positions of responsibility. Now, just as members, we have responsibility, that shared responsibility to help with decisions, to help with the work that needs to be done, to be a support for everybody else. But many times, especially when we start showing up as members, we are asked to take on other responsibilities. And one of the dangers of this whole idea of self that comes into play then is that we begin to think that somehow we are more important than someone else. Or alternately, we begin to think of ourselves as the one who is burdened with more work than anyone else, which is exactly the same thing as thinking that we're better than someone else. I mean, it's all just in the ego, it doesn't care. So here's the idea that just think about what Jesus said about this. He says, your servants will be the greatest among you. And he didn't mean that they're going to be elevated. He just meant that the servant, this is the one, the servant is the one that's like, what he was trying to point out is that's the most important role for you to play, is to be the servant, to help, to be the one who comes forward when a need is apparent. So to be a servant but not a governor. This is we want to help. We see a need, we want to give to that need. Our help may be accepted or it may not be welcome. But it's not up to us to make others take our help. It's only up to us to offer it. We offer it. That's it. Our service is not meant to be a manipulation or a coercion. True service is freely given. We're not trying to force people to do what we think is right. And this is so important when we're in any kind of larger organization. We think other people aren't pulling their weight, so we want to make them do something. So to let our here's the one. I let the affirmation for the day be: I am not the boss of anyone. I need to be telling myself that I am not the boss of anyone, even the people who I employ. Yes, there are tasks, there are agreements that we have, or things that need to be done, but I do not want to take authority over people. It is bad. It is bad for me. Not bad like sin bad. It is just not. It is not conducive to changing my identity from the small self to the larger self. So our interactions with others, we remain humble. Humble meaning just, it's so simple in this, not meaning less than the other person. It means we're all equal. Being truly humble knows that we know that everyone is of equal value, and therefore so are we. So to be humble, remembering that the presence of God is in all of us, that we're equal, and that we all have a gift to give. So we stand ready. We're available. We're available for them, but we're not in charge of them. We avoid thinking of ourselves as superior or inferior to anyone else. We see that we all have authority in creating our own lives. So we strive to be of service rather than governance. And finally, the shared responsibility. No need. Oh, you're going to like this. No need to depend on some hierarchy of authority, some organizational chart depicting the downward flow of shit. I know, twice. We give our best to life because we know that it is our true fulfillment to do so. Always remembering that the isolation of self-centeredness, which is the identification with the small self, this isolation of self-centeredness is the primary problem. So we reject the trappings of power. We surrender our egos and opinions into the common welfare. We take shared responsibility for our relationships, for being of service. We cooperate. We work together. We give. We take responsibility for our work. We take responsibility for our work and still expect no recognition. This is one of the principles that we had at a particular organization that I'm involved in. We had the principle in the beginning of this thing that we always did was that we would never ask for some appreciation. We would never ask for recognition. There would be no standing up in the banquet saying, look at all of the people who worked on this thing. That what we would do is, as the group that worked on the thing, is we would stand and applaud the people who came. Stop looking for recognition. It is so short-lived. So we take responsibility for our work. We expect no recognition, no accolades, no reward, other than the satisfaction which comes from doing our part. If we should happen to be recognized, praised or rewarded in some way, our response can be a simple, graceful